Welcome back, everyone. We took a brief recess after the last interview. At this time, we
However, no one left the room.
Oh, yeah. If someone needs...
No, that's important. No one left the room.
For all your conspiracy
Yep.
theorists.
There was no smoke from the Sistine Chapel, wherever it comes from, not the Sistine Chapel. But so at this time, we're going to take a period of time. The board members who feel comfortable, we're going to discuss some merits and maybe some drawbacks to respective candidates. And we're not going to be here all night, so if you're staying up, don't worry about it. And at the conclusion of our open session, we may or may not tabulate votes. We may adjourn and recess an open session on camera at a later date to individually present our rankings for tabulation and announcing the candidate. Is the board okay with that? Okay with that? So I'll open up to anybody who wishes to speak. We just had 3 candidates, kind of a diverse grouping. If you want to do it in order of candidates that we interviewed, that's fine. If somebody wants to start with an individual, we can go ahead. We went left to right all night. If we want to keep doing that, that's fine.
Sure.
If we want to go right to left, it's up to the board.
Yeah, Ken.
Okay, left to right.
So our first candidate, Mr. Chairman, was Ryan McNutt. I thought Ryan was very well prepared. He definitely researched. He watched voluminous meetings, and that showed in a lot of his answers. I was happy to see that. You know, once you get him talking, I think then his personality comes out. I think it's not readily apparent when you see it, but I think he does get going. So, I mean, his personality is good. I think he, you know, it would be a decent fit, you know, culturally. A lot of his experience is more city-based versus town-based, but I think some of it translates. But he has some real good skills, I thought.
Yes, Ryan McNutt. I felt he was a fairly impressive candidate, well-spoken. I wrote down, that was my first strength, well-spoken. I put down he seemed to have a knowledge of state and federal programs that may or may not be available to us. He had a lot of the acronyms, and he knew what they meant, and he knew what they did. I felt he was well-prepared, as Mr. Massey said. And I also, as one of my strengths, I was jotting down, he had a working knowledge of available grants, which kind of ties into my second strength, that his experience in Fitchburg, his experience in Claremont, but I think more towards experience in Fitchburg, really, really made him a phenomenal candidate. I put down some weaknesses. It just, you know, he didn't last long at his 2 administrative jobs. One of his previous positions, I believe he touched on, there was I put down, implemented a policy that was unpopular with his board, but he also, at the previous meeting, said it was a policy recommended by the Board of Assessors, who had the authority to make that recommendation, and he implemented it, and the board didn't like it. And then his third weakness, I put down, I don't know why I put what I put, but I forget. I put breadth of knowledge, which I'm not sure when I wrote it at the time, but on the weakness end, he didn't really talk too much about, on the strength of Dudley, like our aging infrastructure. And he didn't talk about, he talked about grants. We've been told for years, as all the members know, we don't qualify for certain things that he talked about tonight. And it would have been nice to know if our demographics helped us qualify.
Yeah, that was my city comment was related to that.
But he did talk about the I&I, which the town is implementing even as we speak. So I felt he was a formidable candidate. I agree with Mr. Massey. The more he spoke, the more open and engaging he became. Terry.
I believe, first interviewer, Ryan McNutt, he spoke a lot, as the others have said, he spoke a lot about grants, he spoke a lot about development. I didn't hear as much about dealing with staff and citizens as I did from the others. But, I mean, if we were hiring someone specifically for grants and to get things developed, that's definitely in his wheelhouse. But like I said,
Mhm.
I didn't hear, a big picture of different things like I did from the other candidates.
I want to keep my comments strictly to positives. Because each candidate does have some negatives. I was extremely impressed with the amount and the depth of the research that Ryan did. I think he has the majority of the requisite skills that a good town administrator needs. None of our three candidates are perfect in that none of the three have all the skills we need. So that's not a negative comment about a particular candidate. But overall, I was very impressed. I thought he had extremely strong knowledge in grants, in budgeting, in supervision, in what's available to us federally and through the state. And I won't say anything individually negative about anybody.
Mr. Massey?
So our next candidate was Jonathan Ruda. And like Mr. Joseph, I mean, I like us to stick to positive things all around. That's, I think, what we've all done. So Jonathan's strengths, I mean, he's local, right? He understands. He sat next to us for 9 years in many cases. So he understands our vision. He understands kind of what we're looking to do next. And stability is important, right? So what's really stands out to Jonathan, I mean, he's always been very good at writing. He called it out himself. But just the fact that he can come in, sit in that chair, and run it day to day from day one on these little things that just happen to never get addressed. So I think he'd be pretty good at that. His business acumen is clear. It translates, I think, well into, running a enterprise like a town like Dudley. And it's clear he wants to be here, like the prior candidate. So.
I'm just gonna follow my same format. I jotted down a bunch of stuff, and I agree with Mr. Massey. His strength, I put he's local, he's invested in the community. His knowledge of the town of Dudley and the priorities of the board as a member for 9 years, and as a person that lives in town, he would understand the priorities much, much more easily. And he able to hit the ground running, as we talked. He knows the system. He knows all the players, for the want of a better term. He knows how it functions day to day. Under his weaknesses, I mentioned it in his interview. No, not surprising anyone. I put no TA experience. It's a big step up from selectman to TA. And we addressed with him in his previous interview, and we touched on it a little bit tonight. The strength of being from town can be offset by being too invested in it. By that, I just mean, as Ryan McNutt and comments from the board, and Jonathan even, I think all three, you have to be a leader and strong enough to overcome what could be perceived as a hindrance. I think his contacts at the state that he's developed through the years would benefit us greatly. But that's pretty much to summarize what I felt were strengths and weaknesses.
Mr. Chairman, I also wrote down well prepared. I forgot to say it.
Yeah, they all were. I mean, I put
They all
that for
were.
everybody.
They all were, but thank you.
At some point, I put it in there. Mr. Siganovich, carry.
I wish I could copy and paste what Mr. Sullivan said, because that's how I felt about Mr. Ruda. I don't think any of the candidates know Dudley better than him. I don't think any of the candidates will have more, at least short to midterm success than him. As Mr. Sullivan said, he has no town administrator experience. However, he possibly answered that during his interview. It's, yeah, the only drawback that I could see is the lack of town administrator experience, but I think he answered that to my satisfaction.
Jonathan's strength is he knows the town. That's it.
Angie.
Okay, Angie is who is our third candidate tonight, and Angie has several strengths that I appreciate. I mean, she has a very good demeanor, she's engaging, she's friendly. I think people would warm up to her easily. She's honest, and some of the stuff she told us tonight shows me she's got guts. And I think that's important. You need to have guts as a town administrator when you have either this board or a future board, you know, maybe wanting her to do things that we may not want to do. The one-year plan wasn't, maybe not as specific as I would have liked, but I liked her thought process on the steps she would do and the things she would do. She was specific about, you know, Nichols and economic development, but, you know, some of the, like I said, the things that we know that are close to home, right, need to be fixed. I mean, she wouldn't really know about yet. But yeah, she had some good skills. I think she would also be a decent fit in Dudley.
Again, I put her strength, she does have town administrator experience. I mean, she was well-spoken on the processes of the towns that she's worked in. I also put down that she has town position experience, similar to other candidates that we have. She served as a select woman and a school committee member, and was actively involved with the library in her town, so she has some experience at how it works at the grassroots level. I put down she was well-spoken. She certainly was. She was an impressive candidate. At a previous interview, you know, we gave everybody all the time they wanted to speak, and some people were happy after a certain time, and we had an excellent interview with her, and I think she would have stayed if we continued firing out questions. She answered everything. On the weakness side, she kind of touched on it a little bit with the financial stuff. You know, she clearly made it that she leans on the financial experts or the consultants that they're using now to formulate their budget, and more as opposed to, it's ultimately her budget, but she made it clear. I put down, we asked questions about state programs, and while she certainly touched on it, I just felt that the other two candidates had more specificity on their answers of where to look for things. And then she really didn't talk too much about Dudley's structure, you know, the elected, appointed stuff. I think first candidate spoke a little bit about it, and obviously the second candidate knows a lot about it. But I think at the end of her interview, her frankness and her honesty certainly impressed me on the type of character, and as she stated, that's a big point of pride, and I think she demonstrated it tonight with her answers. And the comment I made at her interview stands by itself, and I stand by what I said. Terry.
I agree. She did speak a lot in generalities, not much specific things. That did stick out to me as well about leaning on others as far as the budget process goes. And she has had short time at the two positions she was at, but however, the other two town administrator positions she was at were strong positions, where Dudley probably could be considered a weak town administrator, where they take more direction from the selectmen. And I think she would be more successful in Dudley than she has been in other communities. And I, as others have said, I really get a feeling of just genuineness from her. And that's refreshing.
Besides having been a town administrator / manager at a town smaller than us and a town about our size, maybe a little bit bigger, I think, Uxbridge, I was struck, absolutely struck, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, I was struck dumb by her candor about why she would consider leaving Uxbridge for Dudley. And she has some areas that she needs to improve on, but I am convinced that she and her family would become involved in the community of Dudley very quickly. I don't see how that couldn't happen with her. Those are my observations.
So at this point, I'll ask everybody on the board, have you had your chance to have your say regarding what we did tonight? I don't want anything left.
I'm okay.
This is a good,
I'm okay.
good process, good.
I'm tired, but I'm okay.
And then, once again, I'm not gonna seek to speak for anybody else. If everybody's not comfortable proceeding, does people feel they need a day or two to remunerate?
I'm ready whenever we are.
I can be ready, but I don't wanna, again, it's 10.
Say again?
I can be ready now, but it's 10 o'clock.
Sully, where are you at?
I'm similar. I mean, if people wanna go home and think about it, I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
If you want to take a first round of voting now, I'm okay with that.
so just rank one candidate one or rank all?
3, 2, and 1.
So everybody would write it down and pass it in simultaneously, and I will just tabulate as chairman? Is that okay with the board?
Yeah.
So we're going 3, 2, 1,
Three being the highest.
and, yeah, and a high score, total score is better than a low total score.
Correct.
Okay.
One second. Let me just. Just do them one at a time if you want, or you want me to?
Why don't you take them all, get them in hand, and then we'll take it from there. So Jay, did you have fun tonight?
Excellent example of. I didn't keep their names, that's you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't keep them separate.
Yeah. I liked the interaction she had with you. Yeah, that was good.
That was really good.
Wasn't it?
From a resident standpoint, and asking, that was
And she didn't have to do that, but she wanted to do that.
impressive. Very
You know?
very impressive. She pushed back. She's
So
got
you
guts.
wanna step up
She's-
and ask me a question? I'll fix you.
She has guts, I said that.
Yeah, she does.
He can actually do a lot in his head. You'd be surprised.
Wait. No,
And he came up with a
Actually-
joke about the Sequoia and driving through it, so.
not the math, Mr. Johnson, but I put it in the wrong,
Driving through a Sequoia.
I wanna tell ya. Sure there is.
Oh, redwoods. I'm thinking of redwoods.
Close enough.
That's what you were thinking. You
Mm.
I actually made a
See?
mistake. I wrote Paul's picks under my name, but I put you over here, so all I did was cross out the mistake I made.
Ba-da-bum-ba-dum-ba-bum.
Do you want the combined score? You want me to do the,
Yeah, what are the combined scores?
don't, okay.
Don't forget to count Kerry's vote.
I did not. So on a
Didn't happen last time?
on a tabulating sliding scale of 3 to 1, with 3 being the highest, the most points anybody could have was 12, the least they could have is 4. The final tabulation, based on everybody's individual ballot, was Jonathan Reuter, 9, Ryan McNutt, 8, Angie Ellison, 7.
Wow, 1 point difference.
Since it's public record, the votes went as follows. I'll go by candidate. Mr. Reuter received 3 points from John Massey and Kerry. He received 2 points from me, 1 point from Paul, for a total of 9. Ryan McNutt received 3 points from Paul, 3 points from me, 1 point from John Massey, 1 point from Kerry, equaling 8. Angie Ellison received 1 point from me, 2 points each from John Massey, Paul Joseph, and Kerry Siganovich, for a total of 7. 987. Couldn't be any closer.
3 great candidates.
So I guess at this point, it's public record, if anybody's home watching. We've announced our results. I mean, I think maybe as chairman, I should contact the leading vote getter. I can contact the other 2 also, if I'm sure they're still awake. And I guess that we need to get together as a board and form a subcommittee to enter into negotiations with our top vote getter, Mr. Reuter. If the board would like me to try to contact the individuals on camera, I will do it. If we want me to step out and do it, I will do that. What's the board's pleasure? Does it matter?
Do we have to move, or is this, do you think we'll go with the rankings, or?
Is this something that needs to be done open, public? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was
Oh,
pretty clear.
all right. I mean, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the rankings as presented by the candidates, by the selectmen on the candidates tonight, and
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Present.
Present, 301. At this time, the chair will ask for the pleasure of the board to speak to administrative assistant and town administrator to schedule a meeting as soon as possible. So unless you want to do it right now, we can make a subcommittee to enter into negotiations. For accepting nominations, I would ask that Paul Joseph accept a nomination, 2 selectmen. I'd ask Paul Joseph to accept a seat on the negotiating committee.
I will not accept that nomination, but thank you.
I did it last time for Greg. Who did it with me? Was it me and you?
There's you and Jonathan.
I think I have the template on my laptop at home that I used if we do that, so I'm open to helping. We should have 2 of us, though.
Should be 2. What's the board's pleasure? I make a motion to appoint John Massey as one of our representatives.
You don't even need a motion. You can do that by consent.
So who will help me? Steve?
I'm open to it as chairman, if it's okay with Kerry.
Yeah, you're good.
So
Nina?
we will contact the 3 candidates, and myself and Mr. Massey will be the initial committee to enter into negotiations with Jonathan Reuter. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add tonight about the process or the vote that we took tonight?
The only thing I'll say is that the board has spoken, and that's the will of the board. Yep.
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for leading us through, this process, which has been, challenging. It's taken a lot of time for all of us to kind of talk all the candidates and get down to where we are tonight, so thanks for leading us through that. Thank you all. Thanks to all you guys for taking this seriously and putting all the time in.
And too, I'd like to just thank everyone from
Can I impose on you?
my fellow board members.
That's what was stuck in the back.
I had to call Greg for some guidance a couple times. I thank all the people who didn't show up tonight, which is fine, but people that spoke up during the process, curious about how we were going to handle it, and I think this board, again, has proven itself to be honorable, open, transparent, and doing the right thing that we possibly could for the town of Dudley. So at this point, I'm going to take a motion to adjourn, and I'm going to contact the 3 finalists. And
So moved.
Second.
moved by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Mr. Massey. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you all.
You wanna write that one?